dig up a past I swore would stay buried.
You will always be a monster.
Ares! I have nothing more to hide.
The ghost of Sparta had been born.
How do multiple sun gods share the same star? How is Gaia an abstraction of Earth in the Greek pantheon, but not in the Norse one? When Gaia moves, continents split apart, valleys are formed, and the entire Earth shakes. She's omnipresent across Earth. How can she have control over the entire planet when all the gods/other mythological creatures have only regional power? How can Poseidon shake the entire planet with a fist even though he's regional in range? How can the 9 realms exist within the boundaries of Scandinavia, each of which a separate parallel reality with their own space-time and contain their own outer space with their own stars and galaxies? How can the underworld be infinite in size if it exists within Greece, only Greece? How can Yggdrasil, similarly, be infinite in size, transcend many abstract concepts like space-time, and contain all the 9 realms on itself when it merely exists within Scandinavia?
Okay, so it's not like in Elfheim, if you keep walking, you can eventually get to the Egyptian version of Elfheim, which would be very trippy and cool.
I guess you theoretically could, because all of our realms, I mean, we established they exist, like Freya says, they exist in the same physical space. They're essentially just kind of like, dimensions on top of each other. That's why the temple, the realm temple, and the bridge can all exist. It exists in all the realms. All the towers, all those things exist in the same realm. So, if you were inside the light temple in Alfheim, and you could theoretically travel right from there, to Muspelheim or Niflheim or any of those places, you would be in that location.
Right.
How can multiple other continents and countries like Africa, Egypt, Persia, Libya, etc. be under the Greek pantheon's control when it's regional? How can the primordials be responsible for the creation of the universe if it was created by Ymir after Odin slayed him to create the 9 realms? And Surtur, who created all the stars in the realms? See, something doesn't add up. There are so many more examples, but I'll stop here. You must have got the point by now. Different mythological pantheons and God of War present the universe's and Earth's creation and destruction stories in different ways, which often contradict each other in a very subtle manner, as I've just pointed out. You might be saying, "Oh, ABD, you are using statements from the novels which aren't canon." But the novels and comics from the God of War Greek mythology are indeed canon as long as they don't contradict the main game story, which they don't. This has been confirmed by the senior narrative writer, the novel writer, and the director of God of War 3. As for the Norse novel, they were written by God of War 2018's narrative director's father, Cory Barlog's father, and were carefully supervised and read by him before being released. So they are also primary, or I suppose arguably, secondary canon, and they don't contradict the main game story at all. You might be saying, "Oh, but the Greek mythology portion in God of War was retconned." Nope. A longtime senior animation director confirms that nothing was retconned and that Poseidon is still the god of all the seas, or was the god of all the seas before he was killed. Even the narrative writer of the latest game confirms that all myths and their interpretations are true. Doesn't matter if they are contradictory. You might be saying, though, that the creation and destruction stories aren't supposed to be literal. They are just myths after all. But again, the narrative writer of God of War 2018 disagrees. Longtime senior animation director disagrees. The primordials literally existed in the Greek pantheon. Thanatos was literally the final boss in God of War Ghost of Sparta. They did exist. They did create the universe. There is so much proof of the primordial's existence in the God of War universe, but this should be more than enough. Even Mimir, who's the most intelligent sage in the Norse pantheon, and himself is from another mythological pantheon, he's none other than the Puck/Robin Goodfellow, as he states in the game himself. He strayed from what he refers to his homeland and arrived to the Norse pantheon. Gods and their pantheons aren't regional. How do they truly exist within the same planet with their own creation/destruction stories and cosmologies of all the universe altogether? Listen to what Cory Barlog says here.
So is this a continuation of the Kratos we've already played as, or is this a new incarnation? Are you talking about that yet?
Continuation.
Okay.
So it is like the way I kind of see the mythologies is kind of like that Hubble telescope image of all of the galaxies.
The
right?
ultra deep field.
Yeah. So that image shows the universe with all of its individual galaxies. Each galaxy is kind of like a representation of a mythology, you know, and sort of wrap that around the Earth. And at any given moment, all of these mythological belief systems existed. You know, they all deal with a creation myth around their region. It's just separated by geography. So that while the height of some of these mythological beliefs are at different time periods, a lot of them kind of align with a single point in time. And even this one, we're not really in the Viking era.
Right.
A lot of people think Norse, they think Viking, but there's really this amazing prehistory, sort of the migration, and then prior to that, the pre-migration era, where in the Viking era, they always talked about the gods have abandoned us. Thor and Loki and Odin.
In this interview, Cory Barlog, the director of God of War 2018 and longtime narrative director of God of War 1 and 2, states that the mythology pantheons on the God of War Earth are similar to an ultra-deep Hubble telescope image showing individual galaxies, each galaxy representing a particular mythology pantheon, and these galaxies are wrapped around the planet. That's how they simultaneously exist with their own belief systems and creation/destruction stories while still being separated by geography. And this was reiterated in another interview.
Put that at the bottom of the presentation. That was to prepare, Scott, that I'd only had 4 weeks to work on this, so please lower your expectations. So it's August 14th, 2013, and this next image was not actually in the original presentation. I would just do a verbal description of this, but I added it in, so there's a couple images I had to switch out to make this thing work. But what I would talk about was the idea that all the mythologies of the world are kind of like this Hubble telescope image. They are like galaxies individually spread out throughout a complete universe. And the world is the universe. And all the mythologies are sort of origin stories of various cultures throughout the world, beginning at the beginning of time and stretching all the way out. So at any given time, all the mythologies exist together concurrently, and they are simply separated by geography. So it's important because some people had the conception that, hey, Kratos at the end of God of War 3 destroyed the world. Well, he destroyed what they believed the world was in Greece, which was their world. Everybody believed their world was the only world. In fact, we still believe that today.
We get a bit more information on the nature of the actual God of War Earth in this interview. Note how Cory Barlog doesn't directly mention the Greek pantheon as Greece. He mentions it as a separate world. And this is Cory Barlog we're talking about. He's careful with his words. He thinks of everything. He's passionate about God of War. The Greek pantheon in God of War had its own version of the world, which was destroyed by Kratos. This means that Kratos destroyed the Greek version of the earth and the universe at the end of God of War 3. The version of the earth and the universe which follows the Greek mythologies, cosmology, and creation/destruction stories. He also states that the actual God of War Earth is a universe of its own containing regions which are galaxies with their own versions of the world, having their own creation/destruction stories and cosmology as inspired by the prevalent cultural myths in different regions. In a nutshell, when we are talking about different mythology pantheons in different regions on the actual God of War Earth, we are talking about alternate realities/space-time continuums with their own version of the cosmos as inspired by the local belief systems in different regions. This all exists within one single large universe. Each pantheon has its own version of the earth as inspired by the prevalent mythology in the region where that pantheon particularly exists. Have a look at the parallel earth theory. A parallel earth would exist in a parallel/alternate version of the regular universe, just like that each pantheon in God of War contains an alternate version of the universe and Earth when compared to another pantheon's version of Earth and the universe. For example, in Greece there might be a Greek version of Earth that is flat and surrounded by an endless ocean. In Scandinavia, there might be a Norse version of Earth which is spherical, and so on. These statements from Corey make Bruno's and Matt's statement even more valid. Also, Matt had the same explanation on how the regions have their own depiction of the Earth and the universe. He said that it's the combination of geography and local belief systems. Here's what a universe means, by the way, in case you have forgotten. He said that each pantheon in God of War has carved out its own piece of history, i.e., each pantheon has carved its own cosmos on which they have dominion over, with its own creation/destruction stories and cosmologies based on the prevalent belief systems of the region in which they exist. For example, Greece on the God of War Earth contains its own version of the Earth and cosmos as inspired by the main mythology of that region, i.e. Greek mythology. The greater actual universe which Corey is referring to at the end would essentially be a multiverse, as each region has its own Earth and universe. Same goes for Scandinavia, or the Norse Pantheon. Also, Corey Barlog himself confirms that Scandinavia is Midgard, that Scandinavia has its own version of Earth, which it contains within its boundaries, confirming the parallel Earths theory in God of War yet again. Midgard refers literally to our planet in Norse mythology. This is quite consistent, as in a rapid-fire question interview with Game Informer, Corey Barlog specifically says that at the end of God of War 3, the Greek world was destroyed, not just Greece or the Earth. The God of War promotional page refers to the Norse Pantheon, the pantheon in which the latest God of War game takes place, the Nine Realms, Yggdrasil, etc. They refer to the Norse Pantheon as a separate, full-fledged universe. Note that the term realm and universe are used interchangeably for the Norse Pantheon, i.e. they both have the same meaning in the God of War franchise. So when Freya or anyone in the Norse Pantheon says that Kratos isn't from this realm, it means he is from a separate universe altogether, not just from a separate geographical region. The main website of PlayStation also refers to the Norse Pantheon as a distinctly new realm with its own pantheon of creatures, monsters, and gods, and calls the Norse Pantheon the Norse universe 3 more times. Santa Monica Studios, the great studios which made all the God of War games, clarified this in a Twitter reply. They outright said that Egypt is a geographical region, not a realm/universe. See how even Mimir in the game states the term realm, land, and world separately.
Odin is extremely clever, you see. Nearly as clever as he thinks he is. And he's a collector of prophecies. If it's about the future, he adds it to his collection. Helps him style himself as all-seeing and all-knowing. But of course, the idea is control. Control of the future, control of his fate. He'd control every realm of every land in every world if he could.
He says that a land/geographical region contains a realm/universe which exists within one particular world, and Odin wants to have his dominion over all of these worlds. Here, also Mimir used the term realms and lands separately.
Well, what have we got?
Some sort of travel stone.
Let me see. Great Abdallah, that's the Unity Stone.
You know it.
I wasn't sure it existed. If Tyr possessed this, that explains how he could visit all the realms and other lands to boot.
He held this in the panel in Odin's library.
Yes. Yes, that's it. I understand now. It shows Tyr walking the realm between realms. You know how you must never stray from the path? Well, Tyr always followed his own path, if you catch my meaning.
So in the game, geographical regions and realms/universes are not the same. In the above mural, we can see Tyr holding the Unity Stone in his hand. It's explained by Mimir that traveling physically between the 9 realms is impossible, and one needs to either use the Tyr's Temple Realm traveling room or the Unity Stone for realm traveling in the game. But this mural depicts that using the Unity Stone can even be used to travel to different pantheons. I'm sure a lot of people have been through this before, but as you can see, we have the Eye of Horus, which symbolizes the Egyptian mythology, the Omega, which symbolizes the Greek pantheon. Been there, done that. The yin-yang balance, symbolizing the Shinto myths, and lastly, the triskelion, which symbolizes the Celtic culture which Mimir is most likely from. Christianity is also a pantheon in the God of War world, as confirmed by an Easter egg back in God of War 2 and the director Corey himself. I actually made a video about Christianity coming to God of War recently. Go check it out. And we can see intergalactic distances with stars and galaxies between these pantheons, further solidifying Corey's words that each mythology is like a galaxy. In the center of this image, we have a depiction of the god Tyr holding the Unity Stone, while he is on one of the branches of Yggdrasil, in the cosmic void located in the realm between realms, the outer space in which Yggdrasil exists. This void is filled with galaxies and stars, which symbolizes the other pantheons. As Mimir states when he recognizes the Unity Stone, its possession is what enables Tyr to travel between the 9 realms and even other lands to boot. Here's what Bruno replied on being asked, how do multiple pantheons on the God of War Earth coexist when they cause clear contradictions in terms of creation/destruction stories, and if the Greek world in God of War refers to just Greece or the entire Greek depiction of the universe. All the mythologies exist all at once. Kratos destroyed the world in God of War 3, the Greek world, not the entire world. The Primordials created the Greek world. The Norse world was created by the Norse gods. Atlas held up the Greek world. Everything related to Greek falls under the Greek pantheon. So does the creation stories. Everything is based on geography. This is how all mythologies coexist. So yes, the Greek world or the Norse world contains its own version of the universe and Earth. Bruno also iterates an explanation on how the pantheons are alternate realities separated by geography, which is exactly the same thing Matt and Corey said. Here we have Bruno again confirming everything we've said so far. He outright reconfirms Matt's words, states that the franchise as a whole takes place on Earth, but each pantheon presents its own version of the universe despite various contradictions. I hear you saying, Corey uses the words galaxies as a physical metaphor in both interviews. But no! Physical metaphors don't work that way. It doesn't sound like a physical metaphor, and also the sentences aren't arranged in a metaphorical sense. He uses the word galaxies in its literal sense, giving the example of a Hubble telescope image and saying that those galaxies are wrapped around the Earth. And that's the explanation of how all the mythological beliefs coexist within the same world, stretching from the beginning to the end of time. It was an outright basic and unarguable explanation, which people tend to take out of context via blowing it out of proportion by claiming it's a physical metaphor when it clearly isn't. It was the director's interpretation. Now, to understand how such small geographical regions like Greece and Scandinavia contain entire universal realities within their boundaries, there's a simple explanation for this. In a nutshell, the geographical regions in God of War are magical in nature. They're smaller from the outside, bigger from the inside, similar to Doraemon's fourth dimensional pocket, which seems like a regular pocket in size and weight, but inside contains the pocket dimension of the name fourth dimension, which pretty much is limitless in space. Hermione's beaded handbag is another such example. Its size and weight are absolutely normal, yet she can pull out a full-sized fridge out of it from nowhere. And Corey agrees with all this, by the way. He agreed in an Instagram conversation that the God of War Earth is just like our Earth in terms of geography, but within the boundaries of each geographical region, there exists a depiction of the cosmos as per the belief systems prevalent there. This makes the God of War Earth a multiverse, and each geographical region a universe. Now, after all this, people make this claim. If all the mythologies are universes, then how did Kratos travel from the Greek mythology to the Norse one on a boat? All of this is false. No, Kratos didn't travel on a boat. This has never been confirmed on any God of War 4 canon material. This is just an utter false claim. In the novel, he doubts that the 2 giant wolves must have swept him here somehow. Just because he uses a boat to traverse in Scandinavia doesn't mean he arrived to Scandinavia on a boat. As you can see in this mural, there are astronomical bubbles containing stars and galaxies in a cosmic sea housing them. This shows how Mimir can travel to other mythological pantheons without the aid of the Unity Stone, though the stone might allow for instantaneous travel. This also confirms that even if Kratos used a boat to traverse the ocean and reach the Nordic realms, it's not too implausible. Now you're probably wondering, if the Greek world / pantheon, the Norse world / pantheon, and the Egyptian world / pantheon, and so on, are separated by geography, how come is it that a god from the Norse pantheon or a god from the Greek pantheon can travel to Egypt and not come across the Egyptian gods? Well, My answer to you is simple. You see, to actually cross between the realms, from the Norse pantheon to the Greek pantheon, from the Greek pantheon to the Egyptian pantheon, you have to cross at certain points. You must pass between the two universes at a certain place, location, in time. Let me give you an example. In Norse mythology, there is a way to cross to the realm of Asgard without using Tyr's temple or the Unity Stone. And that is by finding the Bifrost Bridge that connects Midgard to Asgard and crossing it. To get to Helheim, you had to cross the river Gjöll, the river of clanging swords and spears. And then you'd have to cross the bridge Gjallarbrú over the river to get to Hel. So you see, there are certain locations that allow you to access these universes without having to use the Unity Stone or Tyr's Temple travel room. This is confirmed in God of War Ragnarok when Ratatoskr questions Kratos, how did one travel from realm to realm if his homeland, Greece, the Greek pantheon, had no world tree?
Master Kratos, friends, what can I do for you? I was curious, my dear fellow. You come from lands beyond these, do you not?
Yes.
I was wondering, who tended your world tree back home?
My home had no world tree.
No, you had no... But how? How did one travel from realm to realm?
On foot or by sea.
Good God, man! No wonder you left.
Again, this proves that different pantheons in God of War have unique and distinct cosmologies and world structures. And there you have it. All of this solidify the fact that all the pantheons in God of War are separate realities altogether. The God of War Earth is a multiverse, and each geographical region contains a universe or multiple universes within it, magically, such that they appear small from the outside but contain entire cosmoses within them at the same time. Before you leave, consider joining the channel as a member. Join with demigod status to gain access to the Gods of War Council, where we can discuss your theories, ideas, and more. Other than that, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more content just like this. And tell me what you think of this crazy theory down below. Oh, by the way, before I forget, shout out to Agni-Dev on Quora. I have explained this theory actually in his words, so if you want to go check out the original blog, I'll leave the link in the description down below.